And here we go. Welcome to the Good Performance Podcast. Otto Zaccardo, joined with Troy Shallow, Brandon Jeter, and the Chief Grit Officer of the GPC, Pascucci. How you doing, Cole?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. This has been a lifelong dream to be on this podcast.
Well, we're going to get some new dreams, but I'm glad that you're thrilled to be here. Cole was a Georgetown linebacker, defensive end. He played all the way through his career. He had some setbacks, injuries. He's a guy that we talk about earned, not given. That's Cole right here. Earned, not given. Chief Grit Officer. That position, a lot of businesses don't have a Chief Grit Officer, but it was made because of Cole. One of our first clients in the original garage before we moved to our space. And I know for me personally was kind of one of the eureka moments where I really started to believe that the GPC could be something special, just watching him train with that early group of guys that we had in Troy's garage. You can do a little more introduction on yourself, go into some more details if you want. I'm sure I forget a few things, but we're very happy to have you on. This is going to be a special one, and we'll just get right into it.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I've been training at Gooch for, I think I started in December. It was after my sophomore year, so December of 2022. I met Troy and Otto through my friend Christian Jamel. I remember I met them at, I think it was senior recognition night for CC football. I had nothing going on, so I tagged along with him, and just a great energy and presence Troy and Otto had. So I immediately was like, I got to get in there. Went in the next day, and it was the hardest workout of my life. Like, worked up to heavy triple back squat, trying to do Nordics, RDLs, all that, like just a killer leg day. And I remember the thing that really hooked me was we did Dave Tate goblet squats, which is you do 1 rep, rest for 6 seconds, 2 reps, and then go till you pass out. And I remember Otto was kind of trying to compete with me, trying to screw with me a little bit. He's like, yeah, no one really ever can get past 12 or 13, no matter how much weight you do. So I took that as a challenge and couldn't walk for a week. I remember later that day I went to the BC game to go watch Tim Hayes, and I fell down the stairs. So that's what I knew the GPC was for me. It was just a competitive atmosphere. We weren't doing anything fancy in there, but blasting Pantera, Chief Keef, Alice in Chains, the Holy Trinity. So it was good stuff.
Great stuff.
So give us some, or the listeners, some background on Gooch. Where you're from, you went to, how your high school career was, and how you ended up at Georgetown.
Yep, so I'm from Concord. Lived there my whole life. Grew up playing every type of sport, but I was always a football guy to my core. My dad was a football player. He was my coach, so that was something we always bonded over, and it was always my dream and my goal to play in college and try to leverage football to go to a good academic school. Things were going well. A good freshman, sophomore year, started to get a little momentum recruiting. Definitely started getting a little bit of a big head too. And then I tore my ACL, my left knee, playing lacrosse. My sophomore year, that was definitely a big gut check, so I was out. My junior year of football, and that was really some of the first real adversity I'd been through. So I just saw it as a challenge. I just rehabbed, set high goals, attacked them every day, and then I kind of saw it as like, I'm going to miss my junior year, but your senior year is really the most important. In high school, I thought it was going to be a little fairy tale thing. I was going to come back. I thought we were going to win the state title in lacrosse and then football, and I was going to go off and, be the man, be like Colin Murphy. But there was other plans for me. Blew up my other knee, my right knee, in one of the last games of lacrosse my junior year, so it was back-to-back knees, and it was definitely really tough because my high school career was over, and I didn't really have any plans of, what I didn't really want to go to college if it wasn't for playing football, but I was really fortunate that I had a good group of friends and the best parents in the world that supported me, and they're like, if you want to keep playing, the best option was to do a post-grad year. So I was really lucky to have an opportunity to go to Choate. Coach Bonato, best coach in the country, awesome guy, gritty guy. So I was able to go there, but unfortunately the world had other plans, so there was COVID, so we didn't get to have a season. So I did all that recovery. We didn't get to play games, which was frustrating, but we were able to have like practices and scrimmages, and I did my own. I couldn't go to recruiting camps or anything, so I kind of just took it in my own hands and did a little kind of combine, like pro day style tape, just training with my dad in the summer. So I was able to get some interest there. And then the film from Choate, getting back on the field, was very helpful. And so I was able to get, an offer and go to Georgetown, which I was so grateful. I still can't believe they did it. I mean, as smart as the school was, that back at that time, that seems like a terrible decision to bring in someone with all those injuries, but they did it, and I'm really grateful for it. And then, unfortunately, about 2 months before I was scheduled to go to Georgetown, we were doing spring practice at Choate. I blew out the right knee again, so it was 3 ACLs. And at that point, like, literally everyone's like, "You got to hang up the cleats. Like, what are you doing?" Like, I'd already gotten the Georgetown acceptance letter, so it's like they can't kick me out of the school. I can still get a good education. But I don't know, I was like, screw that. Like, they took a chance on me, and I really had that vision of getting back on the field again. So I missed my freshman year. That was definitely a tough time. I remember I came in and everyone's all pumped up when you go to college. And I remember the coach telling me, there's too many guys, there's too many fifth years. So, you're redshirting this year, so we can't give you a locker, and we need someone to film practices. So that definitely really put a chip on my shoulder. I mean, one thing my dad would always say is, just keep working, and every day you get through is one day closer to playing football, getting the pads back on, which that was my goal, that was my vision. So I was able to keep rehabbing through that.
So we're now, you're 1 year into college, and you've had how many injuries?
I've had three.
Blown out knees? 3 ACLs, and you haven't even played in college.
Before you even got to Georgetown.
Yeah, before I got to Georgetown, I had 3.
Yeah.
I had a hat trick.
I mean, that's more than a lot of guys get in their college career, and it's just to go back to back to back, because you're what? First one's when you're 16, 17, right?
Yeah, it was
sophomore year.
Yeah, it was like right before I turned 16, and then right after I turned 17, and then right before I turned 19.
I mean, it
was very interesting, actually, because two of them it was April 16th. Two of them were on the same exact day. So I don't like April 16th.
Okay.
I didn't know that. I don't like April 16th.
Band day. We'll make it a holiday in the GPC. No, but I just thought that was interesting because that's a lot earlier, I think, than a lot of guys get those devastating injuries, like when they move to college, and to have already kind of that tenacity where they took a chance on me, I'm going to keep going. Because you run into a lot of players where they get a few injuries and it's time to hang up the cleats. This is uncomfortable. This is painful. I'm not going to keep pushing. And this is before we met, before you started training in the gym. There's always, and Brandon and I have talked about this. Brandon calls it the grit factor. But there's kind of an innate quality that you find that in certain athletes that really, I don't know if it's a telltale sign, but that wanting to go through even though things aren't working out, that isn't necessarily instilled by a coach or anyone, however you perceive the world, but something about you were given a fork in the road, and you said, I'm going to go the difficult way. I'm not tapping out. I'm not quitting. I'm going to keep going this way. And I think that's been a reoccurring theme that all of us have found with the other guests and all the athletes that we've met, is that's that one piece. And like Brandon calls it the grit factor, but it is kind of hard to identify or say because it's not an easy thing to point out, and only really some people can recognize it. I would argue the most important aspect if you're trying to have an experienced career or just live a life of athletics while you can. So I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I just wanted to highlight how rare that is to be in that position before you've even started playing at a higher level. So I don't know if anyone. Continue.
Yes,
I didn't mean to interrupt.
You redshirt your freshman year. You're filming. They're making you film everything. You basically feel like the manager. Feel like this.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that was from obviously that's whatever they needed someone to do that job, and I got to travel with the team, so I thought that was cool and be with my friends, and all of my teammates were so supportive, and it was honestly just good to be around them and support them. But it was almost five full years between actual football games. It was Thanksgiving of 2017 when we beat the crap out of Bedford, and Gemelli had a decent game until it was the third game of the year was Monmouth when I finally got in. And really during that, my goal really was just to get back on the field. And
that's sophomore year now.
yeah, so sophomore year.
Yep.
So I went sophomore year of high school to sophomore year of college with a post-grad year in there to getting back on the field. But it's like riding a bike. Like, you don't forget how to do it. And I remember the first play was kickoff return. You kind of get that first hit in there. And I kind of realized, like, it's not just about getting back on the field. I want to see what I can make out of a career and really try to maximize my potential, whatever that may be. So sophomore year was really just kind of playing special teams, and it was like, I mean, I was on cloud nine the whole year, just being back, playing college football. And so the next year was really felt like an opportunity to get more on the field at linebacker. So I took my training really seriously, had a lot of momentum. I spent the whole summer training with Troy and Otto, got in awesome shape, was coaching, helping do the CC workouts too. It was a great summer. And then I ended up like kind of cracking my hand. There's a little thing right here, lost a knuckle during camp. So I had a club on. So I had to miss a couple games and I had a club on for the rest of the year. And I wasn't able to make that next progression. Really played probably less as a junior. They took me off some of the special teams. It was very frustrating. So going into my last year, I was like, I'm going to put all my cards on the table. And it was really on. Troy was the first person to recommend this. He's like, why don't you just put your hand in the dirt and play 3-tech? And I was probably like 220 at the time, but I definitely played a physical game and I liked being in the trenches. So I was like, I didn't even tell the coaches. I just started stuffing my face with pizza and burgers, and I got up to like 250. I was like, I told the D-line, I'm going to play D-line this year. There was an opening, and I thought that would be the best way I could help the team and best way I could help myself. And that was
we had talked about it. It was a good fit because the linebacker room was just full almost.
Yeah.
It's like Otto and I have conversations with other guys like this too. Like, listen, like if you can switch, like if there's an opportunity to play at maybe a different position, like that's not super different. Like D end and linebacker are not super. They're not like super different positions. Like really, one just has their hand in the ground, the other doesn't, and that's really it. Like for the most part, in a lot of defenses. So we're like, hey, you might as well like. You like the D-line coach too, so like might as well try it.
Evan Snyder, absolute beauty. Loved playing with him, made it fun every day. Great guy. I mean, he had an NFL background. Played at Rutgers with Greg Schiano, so he's a real gritty guy. He's not afraid to chuck knucks. So I think that was a great move. I'm moving to D-line. I was able to get more in the rotation this year and finish off strong on the field. I mean, it definitely wasn't the best thing for my body, putting on that weight, and it wasn't great on the knees, but I had already gone. If I was doing what was best for my health, I would have stopped playing a long time ago. I wanted to make an impact on the field, so it was a really good individual year this year, and it was just a great time playing football with your friends. And one thing I kind of thought about, I was like, if I play D-line and I don't get on the field as much, or I'm still just playing special teams, like at least I'll get to hit someone every day and be physical in practice. And that's kind of what I really enjoy about football. And it was something new that kind of energized me, and it was something a lot of people didn't believe I could do or didn't think it was a good idea. So that kind of definitely motivated me. And I never looked back, and I love the D-line room.
Do you think it was easier to keep going by the time you broke your hand because you had already been in the shit for so long? You're like, I've already been through this. Now I can't stop, right?
Yeah,
it's building momentum.
Yeah, that felt like it was like a stub toe compared to the other surgeries. And yeah, they just clubbed me up, and I mean, you can kind of use it to your advantage as a weapon on the field. But yeah, it was that definitely going through that adversity with the injuries at a young age, I think helped build a mindset of I can overcome strong things, and I can not just overcome them, I can come out on the better side and push my limits. And really, I think it gave me the opportunity to kind of write my own unique story, which I'm very grateful for. I mean, a lot of people, I didn't really want to be like everyone else. I wanted to do my own thing.
And how do you think that preps you? Because you've had a handful of internships and job interviews. What is that like in terms of, it's kind of a different playing field, but you're walking in on, it's a game day, it's a tryout. Does that just feel like another day at work, or is there some difference to it? Because you've built up this confidence, you've been through so much. What's the difference with transitioning out of sport now? You haven't fully transitioned, but you're on your way. And what's the difference like kind of going through that process in the last few months and how do you think football prepared you well for?
I mean, I think football definitely prepared me in my journey. I think it definitely helped build me a lot of confidence, and it kind of gives me a unique story to tell and definitely can leave an impression on someone. But just, I mean, I would say it's the same thing getting a job. It's a numbers game. Like, it's a game of failure. Like, however many jobs you apply for, you're only going to get so many interviews. If you have an interview, there's only so many spots. It's very similar to kind of college football recruiting, where I was, sending like 50 letters, 50 emails to coaches a day, just begging for an opportunity. And even back then when I, didn't have any tape for 2 years of high school, I still was confident that I could make an impact on their program and I could be a good player. And I felt the same way going into the job interviews, whether how qualified or unqualified I was. I think that I knew that I was going to be able to adapt and be a fast learner and just be like a gritty guy that's going to show up every day, that's going to outlast people. That's the biggest thing, is outlasting people.
War of attrition. Yeah, I agree. We see that a lot.
So recently you just had you finish off your senior season. We'll finish out the college career. You finish off your senior season. You had a good year. Actually got to go see you because you guys came up and played at Sacred Heart. So this was like the first game I really got to see you play, and it was awesome. And you were pancaked someone on kickoff return and got your right in front of me basically, and got your entire sideline to go crazy. And you finish out your season, you had your last game against Holy Cross, and after that game, you found out your knee was banged up again.
It was absolutely busted. Absolutely busted. It was cooked. It was terrible. Through gaining, getting up to 245, 250 and playing every day, the meniscus, the cartilage wore down, and the ACL kind of just had a bunch of micro tears. So by the end of the season, I could kind of barely walk, but I didn't miss a practice, didn't whatever. I wanted to go out on the field. I wanted to die on the battlefield. I thought this was like Vietnam, whatever, which it was for me. But yeah, so by the end of the season, your knee is cooked. You need to get surgery. But I don't know. Honestly, I kind of knew that was going to happen anyways. But I don't know if this is kind of how screwed up I am. I kind of liked it because I'm I played through pain. Whatever, I'm a tough guy. So I pushed off the surgery until after graduation. Just wanted to lose some weight, rehab it on my own, and enjoy the last semester. So I had my fourth ACL surgery last Thursday. Went really well. Vibes are high, and hopefully that's the last one until they cut my leg off when I'm 50.
Now it's the road to windmill dunking.
Yes, that's the next goal. I mean, I did kind of the baby dunk 2 summers ago. I was, the ball was flat and I was wearing these super high. You remember that day? I tried
30 times to try and dunk it.
I tried to dunk for 3 hours and I finally got a little baby dunk in. But now the next goal is I want a windmill dunk on Colin Murphy.
Okay.
I want to meet Colin Murphy at the rim.
Yeah, Gooch came in the gym. Let's see, he had surgery last Thursday, right?
I think you need to educate. You said Gooch. Our listeners don't know who that is.
Team Gooch. That's Cole's nickname. That's what everybody calls him. Actually, that is how he introduced himself to us. He came up to us and said, "Hi, I'm Troy. Hi, I'm Otto. Hi, I'm Gooch."
Yeah.
You just say what?
Yeah, I'm Gooch. That's my name.
Yeah, it's just it's a play off the last name, and I think almost all the males in my family have had that nickname. And
it's a great nickname. It makes sense.
Sense of pride.
Yeah.
Great nickname.
So Gooch had his last surgery Thursday and was in the gym today hitting arms. So
yeah, hitting some dips, hitting some arms. Made sure I did my band pull-aparts. Set a good example for the younger guys. I used to skip those.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. What happened? That was your first summer at the garage, the original garage. So you had your winter with us. You went back to school, spring ball, everything. Came back and you trained with us that summer. And every day every upper body day, part of the warm up is 3x50 band pull aparts.
Shout out Dojo Dan. We still love him.
And Gooch wasn't doing all of them.
No, I would probably
looks at me. He's like, "Why aren't you doing all of them?" He's like,
do 30 and call it a day. Be like, yeah, I feel warm. Let's bench. I probably did more 225 tests than I did band pull aparts.
And Otto goes, "Why aren't you doing all your band pull aparts?" Goes, seemed like it was a lot, just like a lot of reps.
No, it was.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way everyone actually does those.
Yeah, it was more so the belief that 50, 150. No, I just thought that was
50.
Yeah, he's like, no way everyone does those, and everybody looked at him like,
yeah,
everybody does them. I think it came up when you were complaining about your shoulder or something from
100%,
all
yeah.
of the
I was
225 testing.
definitely asking to do the football bar bench. I'm like, yeah, my shoulder's all jacked up. I'm like, have you been doing your band pull parts? I'm like, yeah, I do those like, before I bench. Like, you do 150 of those? I'm like, you're kidding. You're kidding.
Nobody does 150. Yes,
Yeah.
everybody does. Well, not everybody. We still have to
No.
get on some people about it, but
Yeah, if you're
Chase definitely does. That's why he benches like 700 pounds.
yeah, so for the young, if there are any young GPC goers or guys that we got on
Do your
program,
band pull parts.
yeah, do them. Thank us later, but do them.
do a lot of them. Do more than 150.
So, well, since we're on story time, I'll tell my favorite story of Gooch here. It was the aha moment of the G. I am going to now rewrite history as that is the aha moment of the GPC. And it wasn't the first session.
It was over the summer.
I know you're not talking about. Not enough. Not enough.
Other plate and then 10, and then you go back down. I don't remember it. You can go up to like 6 plates on each side, or 7 is the most I've ever seen. We go up to usually 4 or 5. I don't remember exactly, but I remember Gooch was fired up to do it. He's about halfway through. He's like screaming. There's metal.
He's on the way back down. Like he's almost done.
I'm over the hill.
Yeah, he's over halfway. He's on the way down, and he just starts throwing up in the rack in the garage, like just puking his guts out. The straps and Troy and I. And this is these are some of the first guys that weren't like we weren't close with.
Waiver yet. There was no waiver yet.
Yeah, this was before a waiver. So Troy and I are sitting there like crap. Like we might. This is a little like much. Like I don't know if this is going. And he just keeps getting up and keeps going. There might have been multiple pukes.
I think there was multiple pukes. I think it was like a couple shrugs, puke. Couple shrugs, puke again.
Yeah, and just puked his way down the ladder. And when he was done, he's like, yeah, got it done. Like, loved it, was fired up, screaming, music blaring. And I think that moment was kind of the realization that there are, like, Brandon, we've talked about this. There's not many, but there are guys out there with that desire, that push to just, I need to do hard things. I need to be better. I'm not going to stop. And that's hard to instill in someone. I think the goal that we try to get with the GPC is that, rising tide carries all boats, and that that culture feeds off of it. Like guys feed off of that just energy. And I think I would attribute a lot of that to why people see such success in the GPC, along with masterful programming by our head S&C coach. I just think that I just remember that as such a staple in my brain, just watching you like in there, like this is what it's all about. Like this, we talk about this all the time. How you do something is so much more important than the specificities of what you do, right? And the way you attacked your training, the way you attacked your rehab from injuries, I think that's very special. I think there are a lot of guys, a lot of our listeners, the young guys need to lock in and realize, because guys will complain that their ankle hurts, but they haven't torn anything, they haven't broken anything, like nothing really devastating. We're still even just talking about sports injuries, not even like life catastrophes, and they think the sky is falling. And I think especially when you're young, in that late adolescence to early 20s age, that's something you really have to cement in your brain and really like push into the difficult stuff that happens. So yeah, Cole Pascucci.
So Gooch, you, like we said, you came to us that winter after your sophomore year with Gemelli, and then you trained with us in the summer, went back to school, came back to the new GPC. And then you helped out in the summer workouts at CC and sometimes at LS. What, like, now and when you're coming back and when you're seeing these high school kids, like, you always give them great advice. And I think most of the advice that you give them is like, you need to be gritty, you need to be tough, and you need to work hard. Like, I don't know what the question I'm trying to ask is. It's not really a question. It's more of just like, you found yourself kind of in this like role of, because you are an OG of the GPC who has been through shit and is now here. Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm trying to ask.
You just want me to talk about grit?
No, I mean, I guess like, I don't know what made you keep coming back to the GPC, I should say. Like what made you keep coming back and like want to share your wisdom to these younger kids? Like what drove you to the GPC so much, and why did you fall in love with it so much? I know you said that first workout was so difficult and hard, but like after that to keep coming back, and now to come back and help out with groups and help out with training and talk to these younger kids and give them advice. Like
it's the sense of community. Like you get a bunch of like-minded guys together, and I think the GPC is unique in the sense that it's not like other gyms. It's really like a Division I college football weight room on steroids, on Anavar. It's absolutely nuts. It's loud, and I feel like it's one of the few places. The football field in the GPC is a place where I feel like I can fully express myself. I can be loud, you can yell, you can listen to music, and you can compete. Like I absolutely love the competition aspect to it, and really all the best training partners, and just training with Chase, training with Jameli. And I'm missing a lot of guys, but guys that want the success that you want for yourself. It's really like a brotherhood. We'll be working out and we'll get lunch together, play video games, hang out on the weekends. So that's what really is like the secret sauce, is like that kind of family, that community atmosphere of everyone's trying to get to the same place. There's no egos in there. And to see the young guys come and to see how the business has grown is very inspiring to me, because I remember being in that situation, and I would have killed to have the GPC when I was in high school. Definitely probably would have saved me some injuries and more time on the field. But I mean, there's nothing like it. And I've said this to Otto a couple times, like, you guys will always be successful because you have no competition. There's nothing else out there that is like good performance. There's no competition. And it's because of who you guys are. And I would say another thing that kind of kept me coming back early was just, I wanted to be as big and strong and fast as Troy and Otto. I'd always kind of train with my friends in high school, and it's usually not a good thing to be in the gym. And if you're one of the strongest, fastest guys there, if you want to level up and get stronger and faster, you have to be with guys that are big, strong, and fast. And that's looking up at the bios of Troy and Otto, and then seeing them lift and seeing how they work and how intentional they are and how competitive they are. That was really what I wanted. That was what I wanted for myself. That was going to make me grow.
So we can talk about grit right now, because Brandon's on this podcast, by the way, for listeners. He's.
I told you I wouldn't speak unless I had something qualified to say.
Well, I'll give you something that will qualify, because that's I think Gooch's story is a really good snapshot. It's a really good tale about what grit is in football. That really is it. But the idea of pushing forward is the same idea that, Brandon, you've talked about, but you're a track guy. Like, you didn't really play football. Football wasn't your thing, but that's transcending now multiple sports, and we still find, all right, well, we're talking about this, so I want to hear a little bit about your thoughts with grit, Brandon, because there might be some connections that we can draw, because I know you and I have talked about this at Lake Placid and stuff, and even on phone calls, but I know that you've just started coaching, and again, you come up, you're looking for gritty guys, like you were saying. He's a gritty guy, he's a good guy, he's a guy you want to train with, a guy you want to go forward with. What have you seen with terms of, grit, that grit factor, as you say? I don't know.
It's definitely
Speak on grit.
It's definitely something that's innate. I think sometimes it's probably a little bit more visible in contact sport like football, because you're going out there and you have to be violent. You're going out there to hurt another person. When it relates to football, when I describe it to other people, I always use the saying, like, he's a football guy. You know what I mean? Like, and there's football players, and then there's football guys. Like, a football guy is like fucking shoulder pads, like a fullback, you know what I mean? Like a guy who's going to go out there and he's going to fuck people up like 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Like, that's, it's pretty, I think people understand it as it relates to football. Other sports, like I said, it's like, and I think I had this conversation with you, Otto, it's like, you might not necessarily have to go out there with like the mindset that like you're going to fuck someone up, like this is going to be violent, but it's going out there with kind of the mental toughness. Like, for when I coach track and field, it's more of an individual thing. Like, you have to go out there and you have to, like, I try to instill, especially in my, more competent athletes, like, you have to be like, think you're the baddest motherfucker out there. You have to think that you're in better shape, that you've conditioned yourself more. Yeah, you might not have to worry about, running down someone or getting blindsided or something like you would in football, but it's about the idea that you're like the baddest motherfucker. And I think, like, like you said, it kind of transcends sports. Each sport has a different element to it. Like I said, if it's a contact sport, there's a little bit different dynamic. If it's an individual sport, the dynamic's different there. But I think it's something that you carry over, and especially with like you and Troy now moving on to sports after football, you kind of still have that. And Gooch, you'll probably have that, going forward. Even if you're trying to figure out how to knock out a windmill. It's literally just, it's like a drive in there. It's innate. It's hard to quantify. It's kind of subjective. But yeah, I mean, there's not much more I can say to it. You kind of just know it if you see it, type thing.
Yeah, but you got it, because we have athletes. There are now some GPCers that aren't strictly football players now. We're getting more athletes from different sports, and they're seeing a lot of success in their sport. But I just wanted to highlight that because it's a quality that's really visible in football. But for all sports, across everything, it's still that grit factor, that pushing forward. You can do a million podcasts. They're going to get repetitive. Everything is just being tough and working hard. I guess we'll eventually put it into the right words. But yeah, I think that's really important. It can't be emphasized enough. Another thing that, again, I said I would always bring up that you said, Gooch, was you played all the sports growing up. Once again, Troy and I have talked about this I think with every guest now, is that everyone had a very diverse, young, athletic background. It's just to highlight how they played different sports. Question for you, Gooch. Which of it might not even be an injury, but what was, and you don't have to share if you don't want to, what was the hardest moment for you in terms of, there were injuries, you came back, you came back. Is there one moment in particular that really kind of pushed you in one direction that you were really struggling with on whether or not to hang up the cleats or to keep going? And it's okay if there's not. And if there was, what was your thought process to really push forward? Because you mentioned once you broke your hand, you said, I've already done this 3 times. I'm in it. I'm going to keep going. But was there a time earlier than that, or maybe a time that didn't involve an injury, could have just been a practice you were worn down, that you can kind of remember where you were struggling and you really kind of had to dig deep to keep going?
I would say this, honestly, the second injury was the worst, because I was still so young and still figuring out the vision. So I got hurt. The second one, I blew out my right knee. It was senior night. We were playing Littleton lacrosse. Got smoked on a face-off. The guy was going down to score. I was going to try to check him, and just blew out the knee completely. And that one was tough because it was in front of like the whole school. It was senior night. It was like a Friday night game, and kind of everyone had kind of already known the story. I was getting some momentum coming back, and it was like, back-to-back ACLs, and I knew at least my career at Concord Carlisle was over, and I didn't really know what I was going to do after college. And I remember actually I was being very dramatic about it too. I was like, it kind of felt like it was like a little movie scene. I remember I saw Tim Hayes on the sideline. He came over, gave me a hug, and I'm like, all right, it's your turn now, Timmy. Like, you got to carry on the legacy. Like, I was dead. Like, I thought I was dead. And then, I get it checked out, and they're like, yeah, it's torn. And I just remember sitting in the hospital, and my dad turned to me, and he's like, so now what? And, what do you want to do? And I kind of paused for a second. I was like, I want to keep playing. Like, I didn't really see any downsides to keep playing, because I would, at least if I was going to fail, I was going to fail doing what I loved, and it seemed like the odds were stacked against me anyways. But yeah, that was definitely pretty tough, just because I knew I was missing my senior year. And the part that made it tough was a lot of people felt bad for me. Like, everyone's like, I feel so bad for you, or you could have been this, you could have been that. And it was like people were kind of already writing the story for me that it was a tragedy. That was tough because I kind of believed it for a certain amount of time. And then I eventually kind of picked myself up and realized, I can write my own story. It's not over. I don't want to be one of those guys that peaked in high school. Like, I want to take this to the next level. And if I'm going to do it, you got to go all in.
Yeah, that sounds like something that Troy and Otto emphasize that I think really kind of epitomizes the grit factor. And that's the sort of like bending the arc of reality towards your own will. And that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. Like, Gooch, I just met you, 30 minutes ago. And it's like, if you had stopped after the first knee injury or after the second knee injury, like, your story, not necessarily a tragedy, but like, it would have ended. You know what I mean? Like, it would have been like, oh, this guy, it would have been what ifs. Yeah, it would have been defined by kind of what ifs. But instead, you ignored everyone and Four is crazy. Four is probably the most I've heard of that, like, and you've come back from, you've came back from each one, and I really think that is kind of epitomizes the grit factor. The more I think about it, is really just how do you shape reality? How do you ignore like what people perceive your timeline should be and turn it into what you want it to be?
On the topic of football guys and grit factor, Steve Pascucci might be the ultimate football guy. And, I know you said this before, he was by your side the whole time, but how important was he and Steve, your dad, and your mom in your recovery from all these ACLs and keeping pushing forward, and also helping you fall in love with the game of football, which I'm sure Steve had a huge role in?
I mean, definitely. I'll fight anyone on this. I have the best parents in the world. I'll fight anyone on this. My dad is just the hardest working, really gritty guy who wouldn't make any sacrifice for the family. And that guy absolutely loves football. What kind of transferred to me is definitely probably the most demanding coach I played for growing up. And I think that was for a reason, so that when he kind of passed me off to high school and college, I was able to, I guess, be ahead of my peers and be a little bit more coachable, and was focused on the right things. And my mom is a savage. She coaches tennis. She's one of the most competitive, hardworking people I've ever met. I mean, she had a knee surgery about, I think it was over winter break, so like 4 or 5 months ago. She's still getting after it, training. She's going for another national title. So just to be around that, and they're always very positive people that, push me to always support my goals. And my dad he's a man of, he always has great sayings, great wisdom. He would always talk about no ceilings. You can do whatever you want, write your own story. My mom's just always there to support me, and we can always go back and forth talking about different health stuff or different training, and, we can work out together, and she's in way better shape than I am. Kick my ass. And then, my dad, just another one of his great lessons he told me when I was probably about 6th or 7th grade, that actually came from his father, my grandfather. He would always talk about the lonely hours, and that if you want to be great at something, you have to, whether it was lacrosse, playing wall ball, or shooting free throws, or watching film by yourself that no one sees it. It's really for you. That's really what pays off. And if you can do that consistently enough, it will compound into something greater than you can ever imagine. So that lonely hours kind of talk he gave me definitely stuck with me. And that definitely is something that applies past football to life. Just always putting in the daily deposits, being disciplined, consistent, and also honestly a little bit delusional too about what you can do. If everyone thinks like your goals are attainable or whatever, like you're not on the right track, then you're not really making any progress.
Excellent.
And he loves football.
He loves football. I always know if I make a tweet, it's gonna be liked by Steve Pascucci.
He's sending me cut-ups. Like, we'll send, like, whatever, all these, Twitter's the best app ever, because we'll just send, there's all these plays of football and, like, whatever, showing these guys spilling zone read. Like, it's awesome. So just, like,
watch how this guy wrong shoulders this one.
Yes.
This is awesome.
So, watching film, watching football, like, he's always someone I could watch film with, get his opinion on, and obviously he paved the way playing college football, and that's really, I always just wanted to just be like him. So, that's honestly a lot of what kept me going. I didn't want to let down my parents because of how much love and support they've given me.
Truly inspirational.
Yeah.
To pivot, I know Coach Troy's got some doozies of questions. Yeah, he's always got some good questions for us. But let's get a little more casual, because
what is Gooch's favorite memory and moment from the GPC so far?
I absolutely loved last 4th of July. We had that bench press party. I remember, Officer Shallow brought in some donuts. We had great vibes. Everyone was bench pressing. I think literally every single person hit a PR, which is like insane, but that was just a testament to the environment, the atmosphere, and how patriotic the GPC is. That was when I'd set it was like
225,
depending on who's counting. And then we went over to the house and had a great cookout. That was a great memory, and I'm excited for 4th of July again this year.
4th of July this year is going to be even better. And we had the dart tournament.
Yes, yeah. We were talking about that. I won't talk about what happened on the podcast, but me and Jay and Murph were talking about that in the office.
Same thing's going to happen this year.
Okay.
It might even be worse this time. All right. Yeah. So, some Q&As. Okay. Gooch, you're big into this because I think this one actually applies to this and to you as our guest here, because one of the things that I think you changed that really helped you, like going into your last few years of school, is your recovery. Like,
Yes.
you were on your shit when it came to like recovering and being ready to go. So one of the questions I have from, these come from the Instagram, is someone asked like, what are the best ways to recover, like from a game, from practice, from a hard training session, from a hard week of training, like daily, what are your favorite ways to recover daily, and what are your favorite ways to recover, say, the end of the week and so forth? Because like I said, you really did a phenomenal job of taking like recovery and that extra, like your dad says, the lonely hours, like taking that to the next level this past off season. So what do you think the best ways to recover are?
I mean, the biggest thing for me that I kind of developed is you need a routine. There's not one thing that you can do that's going to cure you from a hard workout. It was a routine, so that was the stretching routine that you guys developed. I would do that every day, and it's especially important to stretch after you work out and make sure your soft tissue is good. And I would go in those Normatec boots. It's really just, get off your feet and really be disciplined about your sleep. Make sure that, 10 o'clock you're in bed. Because I used to be terrible at sleep. I was always kind of in a state of overtrained, and that would lead to those injuries. So I started to kind of realize, like, it takes more discipline, more hard work. It's probably would be harder for me to not work out and just sit down and rest and get that sleep. So developing a routine of, stretching, soft tissue work, foam rolling, and just kind of winding down, so you can get to bed at a consistent hour, get consistent sleep, so you can get consistent results.
Brandon, Otto, anything to add on to that as to what you guys, use in your recovery methods that you guys like to go to if things are not necessarily bugging you, but just
Sleep is king, man. I remember every injury, especially soft tissue injuries, every soft tissue injury I had, I swear to God, it was like when I would start to get to the end of the timeline, I would get like a deep, nice night of sleep, and I would wake up that morning and I'd be like, I know like the pain on this and me down. I think sleep is king for sure.
Definitely.
Body tempering. That metal roller we have, just put 100+ pounds on a muscle, let it sit there. Because I don't think people are consistent enough with, foam rolling and myofascial release. I think in some areas is overhyped, but I do think that there is an important piece. I also might think this now as I get older, but I do think that taking care and being very attentive to your soft tissue is huge. You need to be sleeping adequately. At the same time, you're also going to have nights where you don't sleep and you have to wake up and get it done anyway. So there's the grit factor coming back in. But I am now a huge fan of body tempering. I think it's really helped. My legs and hamstrings haven't felt this good in quite some time, even when I know that they're a little bit fatigued. And that's my biggest new thing. Oh, and we have those LEDs in the gym now. So if anyone needs red light therapy,
Wow.
hit us up. Yeah.
And Otto and I talk about this a lot. And Brandon, I'd be curious to hear your take on this from a track perspective. One of the questions here is, what's the best way to get noticed / offers for college football? And, Gooch, like you said, you went through 3 friggin' ACL surgeries before you even got to college. So for you, your recruiting may be different, or your recruiting journey was different. But, best ways that you think or advice you would give to people for best ways to get noticed / offers for college football.
I mean, the number one thing is you need tape. Like, you need tape that's going to show. It's not just flashy plays, whatever. Like, college coaches love to see wide receivers blocking. They love to see great special teams plays, like, all that stuff. So make sure you have, you put yourself in the position to have the best tape you possibly can. It doesn't have to be, 50 touchdown catches. You only need to show a couple plays that can show your potential. But, I mean, it's really just being diligent of messaging as many coaches as you can, and trying to go on visits, junior days, and I don't know. I mean, going to camps, all that stuff's cool, but it's really, I don't know, I would tell the high school kids not to focus too much on recruiting, just focus on having the best high school career you can, enjoying time, playing with your boys, putting in the work, keep the main thing, which is playing, having great tape, and you need grades, you need good grades that will exponentially increase the opportunities you get in college. So for any level, any school, whatever, like no position coach wants to have to go to the head coach, say, I really like this kid, but I don't know if he's going to be eligible, or he has, a low GPA. I don't know if he's going to handle the workload. So yeah, grades, get after in the weight room, post as many videos as you can. Like, they want grown men that can move people. It's a physical sport, and it also just shows your work ethic. So yeah, grades, get after in the weight room, get good tape. And that's really all you can do, and just message as many coaches as you can, and don't take no for an answer.
So on the topic of messaging coaches, right? We've run into this before with seeing an athlete of ours message a coach too much.
Okay.
And to the point where it's like pestering a staff. You don't want to do that. You need to find that line of like, you do not want to be pestering a staff of like messages. They're not answering. You send a message. Why aren't you answering? Why aren't you answering? Why aren't you answering? Like,
doing research and actually looking at where you can fit in to a program in athletics. So if you've made it this far and you're trying to play a sport, it doesn't matter what sport you're trying to play. You need to do research and look at the guys who are doing what you want to do, what their numbers are, what their measurables are, where the openings are, and what's going on with the coaching staff program, and try to see where it's headed, right? Because Alec, my younger brother, he ended up playing Division I basketball. We'll have him on and he can talk about this. There are statistics that all colleges are obligated to post, and they break everything down in terms of acceptance rate, GPA, test scores, where you're from, like everything. And you can look for opportunities where you have a better chance that might not be reflected by the statistic on the first line of Google. That's a big thing that should be in everybody's brains. Is the first line of Google is not where you stop. If you have a question and you don't understand something, or something is difficult, and you Google it and you read the first line or the first two results and you stop there, welcome back, Cole. I'm talking about numbers. When you're trying to get recruited, find people that are like you, look at their measurables, look at where they're headed, look at people that are doing what you want to do. And then I got into do research. So don't stop at the first line of Google. That's where you're all caught up now. Cole Pascucci's back. Don't stop at the first line of Google. That's for anything. This is about college recruiting, but don't stop at the first line of Google. Like, you need to learn more. So if there's a position, say you're a linebacker and you're trying to get recruited, Troy and I hear this all the time. I'm too small. I'm not fast enough, because there's this idea, parents and coaches and teammates instill this, and this isn't unique to football. This is all sports. They have this idea that at the highest level, at the Division I level, Division II, Division III, that these athletes are somehow beyond comprehension, right? You have to be the greatest person to ever step on the field to do something exceptional. And the big fundamental missed realization, I guess, the biggest issue with that is that you're at the most malleable point in your life when you're in junior to senior year. Your hormones are going through the roof. Your body is going to adapt better to anything, any physical stimulus you could possibly give it than it will at any other point in your life right then. So you have the ability to completely change your body, completely change the way you think, and grow substantially in the next 4 to 5 years. So it's very, very important to aim high and look at the numbers. If you weigh 180 pounds and you think you're too small, pull up the rosters. Look at every single kid on that roster and break down how many kids on that roster are the same size as you. They're the same size as me. How fast are they? Let me find their film. What does their film look like? Does it look like mine? And you're going to get, I know, Gooch, you've gotten it. Troy had it. Brandon, I'm sure you had coaches not want you for whatever reason. It's door-to-door sales. You have to knock on doors. So you go by the numbers to give yourself the confidence. I am as big as it takes. There are guys my size playing at this level, competing at this level. There are guys my speed competing at this level. There are guys with similar film and similar capabilities as me competing at this level. Okay, done. You can compete at that level. Awesome. How? find the open door. Keep knocking on doors. I actually didn't know that you sent as many emails out as you did when you were trying to get recruited. I did the same thing. Troy did the same thing. Brandon, I'm sure you shop your numbers around to every, college track program all over the place, but you have to advocate for yourself. And a lot of times it comes from, if all your teammates and all your parents and all your coaches are telling you that you're not good enough to play at a level. That's why I'm a big advocate for read past the third line in Google. Do your own research. If it's something that you want to do, find numbers to support objectively that you can do it. Maybe you're a little bit below, but again, you have the capability to grow. If you work really hard, you can accomplish whatever you want, but find the numbers to support the confidence that you can do it. There are 5'10" Division I basketball players. There are, 10'8" second 100-meter Division I sprinters, right? There are Division I linebackers and DNs with zero film, right? That's for Gooch and Troy. Troy had a similar path where he didn't have a ton of film coming out of high school and still was able to compete at the Division I level. But it happens. You have to find it. You can always look for reasons to do something, and you can always look for reasons to not do something. And if you want to do it, you owe it to yourself to find those reasons to support, and you need to be your own advocate. You can't let other people tell you can't do something if you really want to do it. But you also can't be too delusional and pester people and be completely out in left field if consistently you're missing marks left and right that are saying, hey, you're not there. So I don't know. I went on a bit of a rant. It's something that I feel really strongly about, but you do need to do research, and you do need to look at what you actually are capable of and kind of think outside the box in terms of, okay, well, I'm at a big growing phase right now. Do I want to grow? Do I want to keep pushing? Do I want to keep, researching and learning and kind of seeing what I'm made of? Or is this not a priority for me? Is this not where I want to take it? Am I comfortable being where I'm at? And there's nothing wrong with that. You by no means have to do it, but we run into a lot of guys that say that they want to, they're all in, they're about it, they're going to do this. And then it gets, uncomfortable, or the first school doesn't say, oh my God, you're the best player ever. Come start for us. They say, no, we're not interested, or film's not great, or you look a little slow. And then one person says, no, the sky is falling. That's it. I'm done. I can't do it. All right, well, that's not the grit factor. You're right, you can't. If you say you can't, you're right, you can't. I don't even know what the question was, Coach. College recruiting?
And Brandon, yes, it was just about best way to get noticed and offered for college recruiting. And, we touched on it from a football sense because that's what we deal with. But I'm actually very curious to hear what Brandon has to say about how that goes for track, like getting recruited for track. What are some things that say they want to go, kids wants to go run college track at X, Division I university. How would they go about doing that?
Yeah, it's funny that you brought this up. Actually, one of my old coaches called me the other day, and I was searching through my emails, and I looked up his email, and I found all these emails from when I was in college, and I contacted all these coaches, and you think it'd be pretty, linear with track and field. You got objective metrics, but, Otto once said, like, when you're talking about the Spark Combine that you did, and you're like, but nobody wanted me. That's kind of how I felt. I was like, I ran these good times, but, like, nobody actually wanted me. The two Division I schools in my backyard didn't offer me. But, I mean, it's a similar concept. Like, look it up. What you want to run at this D1, what are the places 1 through 8 at their conference meet? What are those times? If you're at those times, if you're one of these kids in Texas and you run a 10-1, like every school's going to offer you. Doesn't matter. You can pretty much go anywhere. But okay, let's say you're the kid that runs 10-8, 10-9. Yeah, you're not there yet. You're not going to get 1 through 8 at the conference, but do you have other intangibles? Like, what are your physical characteristics? Are you running 10-8, but you've run like a friggin' linebacker, you know what I mean? You don't have any finesse. Like, do you run 10-8, but your max velocity is 24, 25 miles per hour? What other traits do you have? Are you good at other multiple events? And it is kind of, like I said, you would think it'd be more metric in track and field, but it is kind of bullshit when people are like, oh, you have to run this number. Schools will always post their walk-on standards, their scholarship standards. Usually, a lot of times, if I'm being honest, it's BS. Sometimes you'll see a walk-on standard that's faster than anyone they have, and it's like, what are we doing here? Like, you can find a way in. At the end of the day, they might say no. I have a kid now, he's like borderline D1 prospect. He's like, hey man, like, where do you think I can compete at? Like, my times aren't here. I'm like, look, dude, like, you're good at multiple events, you have potential, you're 6'3", you're pretty fast. I'm like, first of all, advocate for yourself. Second, I'll call on your behalf. Like, I know some of these coaches at these universities, like, I can be an advocate for you. And so I think that's kind of a bit more universal for every sport. With obviously with football, tape's going to matter more. With a more, metric driven sport, tape isn't really going to matter as much. Like, you can see someone's form and stuff, and that plays a little role. With football, it's more. But research, man, I mean, I'm sure it's the same for basketball. If you're trying to walk on somewhere for basketball and the depth chart has 6 point guards on it, odds are it's probably going to be pretty hard to crack that roster. So.
You had a good bit. I don't remember if it was on a previous podcast, but you were talking about buying time, which I think is across all sports.
Get in shape. Get in fucking shape.
Yeah, but explain that. You probably have covered it, but maybe briefly just touch on it, because you mentioned, especially in track, it's so metric driven, but it's the same thing in football in terms of buying time, where there are a lot of controllable factors, being in shape, working really hard, and showing up every day, that gives you the time to grow into an athlete where, oh yeah, of course he's supposed to be here, right? But
yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty universal through the sports. Well, at least for football and track, odds are, you're going to have a tryout phase, at least probably initially, where they're going to, grab a couple of metrics from you. I don't maybe that was the case for you. I had, friends that walked on D1. That was the case for them. Initial couple of weeks of tryouts, they're going to grab certain metrics. It's going to be the same thing for track. They might grab, maybe they're not grabbing a 40-yard dash. They're going to grab a 30-meter fly or something. Something that at least proves you have, the prerequisite athleticism to at least stand a chance. But after that, man, for track, for us, it's usually like our inter-squad, which would be in the winter, which would be like, I guess, to speak in football terms, that'd be kind of like our spring game. The last cuts are going to be made after that kind of that inter-squad track meet. But like from summer to December or January, whenever that is, like, you're just buying time. Like, yeah, you need to be strong, you need to be fast, but like, you need to be in shape. If you're dying during conditioning, you don't stand a chance, because you're dead weight. And I'm sure that's universal through any sport. Like, and you guys can probably attest to this as football players. Like, the higher level of recruit you are, I think that, like, honestly, you get a tiny bit more leeway just because of politics. Like, if you come in and you're a 5-star, if you come in and you run 10-2 and you're a little bit out of shape, like, there might be a little bit more patience. If you come in and you're a borderline prospect, like, you're a true walk-on, you're not even like a preferred walk-on, you have no leverage. Like, it is just pure, like, bust your fucking ass, like, be the top dog.
Sweet. Coach, what else you got for us?
If you were in a zombie apocalypse, how long do you think you would live for? And what would be your weapon of choice?
I mean, I'll live and die with my hands, but I don't think I'll last very long.
That's long.
I am lasting a long time, and give me a fucking ray gun.
I mean, what, we run an inside drill with the zombies? I don't feel a little bit better.
Yeah, we're lining up and we're doing inside fun.
Yeah.
What kind of zombies are these? Always a very important question when regarding
that is
zombie
a good
apocalypse.
question.
Are they the zombies where, they're really slow, they're only come out in the dark, or are they the zombies that sprint, can smell you, and if you kill them, more show up?
It's a mix. So picture Call of Duty Black Ops 1 keynote or toting zombies. That is the zombies we're dealing with here. Shotgun auto.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be shotgun, but it's not. I'm not lasting. Well, you know what? I got to get in shape. I got to buy time, as Brandon said. So I'm going to be a nomad. I'm going to ration. I'm going to be very stringent with my rations, and I'm just going to keep moving nonstop and hope that the Cole Pascuccis of the world with their fists feed the zombies for long enough that I can find.
I would just have to take one for the team. I would just have to fight them off, take one for the team.
That's a grit guy, though. No weapons, I'm going out, and you'll be a legend forever as I, eat my breadcrumbs hiding in the dark. So,
Wait, is it zombie? No, that's vampires that don't like garlic. So yeah, that wouldn't do anything.
Yep.
I mean, you could try it.
Yeah,
you never know.
Yeah, that'd be my weapon of choice.
If your life was a video game, what cheat code would you most often use?
Great question.
Just use it once. I can't die.
Like a cheat code?
Or I don't have to eat. I just have like a constant physical state. Like food, rest, and damage is not a factor. So then you can't overtrain. You don't have to force feed yourself to gain weight. And if you don't want to rest, you don't have to. So I just keep whatever cheat code keeps my physical stats yeah.
Yeah, no, I would, like in Madden, you can turn off injuries. That would have been great for me.
Yeah, dude, just immortality. That's all I would need. Do you guys remember that game, NFL Blitz, and like how graphic,
yes,
how graphic
yes.
like the injuries would be? Gooch,
You would
that's how I
get
can imagine
injured
your career now.
you would get injured in the game, and then it'd be like so and so broke his arm. You could choose like give them steroids or like let them sit on the bench, and they would come back in the game. That game was great.
The graphics were like disgusting too. Like when you got like an ACL too, like it would literally like show it like break off. At least or in the sequel it did.
It would like zoom in and show the anatomy, and then like show it tearing. And I was like, this game's brutal.
You answered that question so lame, Brandon. You copied my answer, but
Good
you made
answer.
it sound. Yeah, well, you just immortality. Cortez. Read past the first line of Google. Next question.
Is that what Hernan Cortez says?
Just next question.
All right, Gooch. Since you're now King Dips, I think I know your answer. But someone asked, sometimes when people ask these questions, they're worded terribly, or they're just bad questions. They say there's no such thing as bad questions. There is definitely
There's a lot of bad
such thing
questions.
as bad questions. Because here's one, and I don't even know what to say to this. This is just an example that, like, for barbell movements, do you prefer high sets reps or lower reps?
I think
it
depends what your goals are. I mean, right now, again, more reps, do more reps. Do more reps.
Yeah, sure, do more
Do
reps.
heavy weight for more reps. That's what you
I think
do.
that you know why that question, we all kind of chuckled with that question, because it says, what is it? Do you do high reps or low reps?
Movements, do you prefer high sets reps or lower reps?
So, you want total rep. I thought it was going to be like high reps, low weight, low reps, heavy weight. But I was going to say there's a common misconception where it's more reps means that I'm going to go light and, not work that hard. I'm just trying to, get a little pump, feel something. But more reps and more weight. You don't have to do high rep sets unless some people do. And maybe it's a personal. Let's answer it personally.
One thing
What
I
does
love-
everyone personally like to do? Just it's so circumstantial based on the training goal.
I kind of like doing set a goal for a number of reps. So, I guess I'm a little different now because I'm recovering from the knee, so I'm just doing curls and dips. But I kind of like to set out a lofty goal of a number of reps I want to do over the day and kind of break that up. But one of my favorite training blocks, favorite things about Good that I hadn't experienced before was doing on the speed and power days, doing 8 sets of 3 fast. And that's something that was definitely very beneficial for me as an athlete, whether it was the blue pad bench. That was always fun. You get the change, you do 8 sets of 2, you get after it. And that's something that kind of mimics football, or it was doing the box squats, 8 sets of 3, killer workouts. Those always got the job done. Those will do.
That'll do. Yeah, I think that does the trick.
Yeah, that'll do.
And we can finish out with one here. And Gooch will enjoy this one. All right. Fuck, marry, kill. Bud Light, Jose Cuervo, and give me another one. Coors
PBR.
Light. PBR.
I'm killing.
Bud Light, Jose Cuervo, PBR. Wide range there.
I would probably fuck PBR, kill Jose Cuervo. I don't think I've ever had that. And marry Bud Light. That's something steady. Not too many calories. That's probably a good deal.
Marry PBR.
Yeah.
Fuck Jose Cuervo.
Is that a California thing? Because no one out here drinks PBR.
Really? No, I associate PBR
I've
with
actually ever seen anybody drink it.
PBR to me is
got
like
a
a
distinct
Midwest
taste.
thing. Yeah, to me PBR is like a Midwest thing. It's kind of like my grandpa drank PBR, just sitting in the garage all day working on cars. That's kind of what I associate PBR with.
That's great.
Interesting. That is great.
Yeah, I thought
there.
PBR.
That
That's why I
is
said
great
PBR. I
factor.
thought it'd get. I guess. Well, I guess I probably
No.
have better beer and.
Not really. It's all the same,
know.
but no one just drinks it here. Everyone
Weird.
everyone drinks Bud Light and stuff.
PBR is like the working
IPAs.
man's.
IPAs. Ooh, what's your favorite IPA? Ooh.
The next one.
Any other questions, guys? You got any questions?
Yeah, Troy, this is for you. Fuck, marry, kill. James Devlin, CJ Ham, and Mike Allstad.
Oh, dude. Listen, we're taking Mike Allstott out for a nice dinner, but I'm marrying James Devlin because that's just, New England guy. He was when I was, God, when did he play? Like 2013 on is when he started about. Like that was his career, 2013 to like 2020, 2021 or something. Maybe even a little bit before that. But that was when I was like, I love football. Football's awesome. Like that, like around that time when I was like, literally the only thing I could think about. I was just like, and I was watching the Patriots and stuff, and it was
Those
just
are the days.
James Devlin.
Yeah.
James Devlin fucking blocking. I was like, look at that. Look at the block by the fullback. Like even back then, my dad used to fucking call it out all the time and stuff. But yeah, he'd be my number one fullback. And Allstott, you know, I love him too. And
Carried the ball
unfortunately,
too
we're gonna have to get not enough blocking.
What if
Carrying
I
the ball
swapped
too
out
much.
TJ Ham for John Riggins? You have a soft spot for Riggs?
So I do, but that's another thing of carried the ball too much. Like if you're talking like fullback out of the three of those, it's Devlin because he really barely ever got the ball. If he did, it was like a 1 yard fullback dive to try and score a touchdown. Other than that, he was just blocking. So like that is fullback. You know, no stats. Don't show up in the stat sheet, right? But yeah, that's what I would take
If
on
him
that.
and Brandon Spikes met in the hole, what's happening?
Tell that story real quick.
Yeah, so this is
That's the way we're leaving the field session.
Yeah, right before I went back, summer going into my junior year, we did like final speed testing, and everyone was all fired up. I had progressed back from a hamstring injury, and everyone was burning that day except for me. Everyone was PR, and I was probably running some of my worst times, very frustrated. I mean, Officer Shallow was there with the dogs, just hanging out, just being a dude. And I was, Troy said, Gooch is very frustrated, whatever. And he comes right over to me. He looks at me and goes, Brandon Spikes ran a fucking 5.2. You think Belichick gave a shit?
The kid could play ball.
He can play ball. And that's what I needed to hear. I was like, yeah, screw this. Like, Troy, why don't we even do sprint training? Like, this is dumb. Like, we're football players. What are we doing?
Coach?
I think we're good. I thought that was a great one. It was pretty good. Brandon, you might have some editing to do because Gooch's
fun part.
Computer died. Actually,
it's not a lot.
It's okay.
It's not gonna be bad.
I also misspoke. Ponce de Leon was the explorer looking for immortality, not Cortez.
Hernan Cortez.
That was sitting in my brain. Cortez. I knew he was a Spanish guy.
On the topic of famous people, who's one person that if you could have a conversation with that, alive or dead, that you would?
I love Dante Hightower. I absolutely love him. He's my favorite player. He's tough as nails, big physical linebacker. I mean, he played for Nick Saban at Alabama, then Bill Belichick. Like he knows how to win. He knows what it takes. And he's a coach now. I absolutely love him.
Brandon, Otto.
Peak great guy. It's gonna be a basketball player. Dennis Rodman.
That is a good one.
It's anyone, right?
Anyone, alive or dead.
Ponce de Leon.
My runner-up would be Ronnie Van Zant, lead singer for Leonard Skinner. That's my favorite band. Unfortunately died in his prime in the plane crash. Yeah, rest in peace, Ronnie Van Zant. Or like Kid Rock. Ted Nugent. Scrap it all. Ted Nugent. Give me Ted. Give me Ted Nugent.
I would probably like to, I don't know, Kyriakos Kapakulak or Mariusz Pujanowski. No one, I don't know. I can't say who I'd really want. That'd be a very interesting conversation.
Well, is that a good way to end it?
I think so.
Yeah. Good pod.
Thanks for coming on, Gooch. If you're listening, keep pushing. Dream big, work hard, get good. I think the more guests we have on here, the more conversations we have. The whole goal is really just to get the message across is like, be gritty. Be tough. Don't back down. That's really it. I think that, bending fate to your will is an important aspect of just navigating life. So,
Cole, where can listeners find you at?
My house.
Well, you don't want them showing up. So, like, if they want to shoot you a message or something.
Them showing up.
It's just, I think it's at Cole Pascucci. Twitter, it might be the same thing. But find me at the GPC.
That's where they'll find you. Yep. Gooch, you should now make your journey. Like 4 ACLs to windmill dunking and now document that.
That'll go viral. It'll be some good marketing.
Oh, yeah.
Get some clicks.
Hell yeah.